ОБС пошел, сейчас здесь появится.
Are you filming yourself?
No.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't like it. It's just the fact that people want it. They keep asking. So I decide to do it sometimes. Totally unnecessary, however. Hoop. In fact, to have it with a thumbnail, I have to copy it from YouTube. Xo'p. Va alaykum assalom do'stlar. Good time of day, good time of day, whoever connected. As it was said on the official post originally right here, the stream is going to happen in English. So if you want to have it in Uzbek, then we're gonna wait for the next stream, I guess, because this is also very, very requested type of stream. Lots of questions from English group, so why the heck not? Orada o'zbekcha ham gapiramiz, asosiysi inglizchada bo'ladi, lekin savollar bo'lsa berishlaring mumkin. Men ko'rib turgan bo'laman har doim. Xo'p. Today we're going to make, where did I put it, by the way? Did I save the reference? Or did I just, yes. Кому я отправил тебе, да? Нет, кому я отправил тогда? Себе, что ли?
You saved it. Photoshop.
Угу. Не здесь. Кому ты отправил? Да. So... I'm gonna drop the reference into the comments of the stream link on designation. So there it is, and here it is. Today we're going to, well, technically recreate this. Ramshad, what's up? One of my best students. You should not be a designer, you should be a cinematographer. Cinematographer. That would be the right way to say it, right? So I'm gonna save the reference, and it's happening on the other screen, so don't worry if nothing is moving on the main screen. I'm gonna put it in the projects, YouTube. This is the one. So that's it. And I can see whatever is happening on YouTube. Maybe I'll put it here. So here I can read whatever you guys are writing. If you have any questions, keep asking, no problem. And I'm gonna have the reference also open on the other screen. There we go. I wouldn't say that I'm gonna match this 100%. It's just the fact of being able to replicate a similar scene. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it could be similar to this at about 60 or 70%. And I keep my right to randomize and improvise anything I want. What I like about this scene, the first and foremost, is the rounded corners of the, what would you call it? The opening, right? And overall rounded corners of these walls as well. That looks nice. Everything else is very simple. And the wall, I mean, I don't know what kind of material this is specifically. It could be a wallpaper, but it feels great. I mean, it looks great. It looks comfortable in the sense that if you want to touch this wallpaper, it would probably feel comfortable, or somehow you would want to touch it if you're in this interior. And of course the floor. I think I'm going to make it simple. I think I'm going to experiment with array in this case. I could make it using floor generator, But I think with array, I have one idea I'm gonna try to replicate. So anyway, let's get it started and let's see whoever there is online. Okay, we have only 20 viewers, which is good enough. Yeah, here. That's the one. This, okay, I don't know what's the difference. But yeah, so we're gonna start and we're gonna do the front wall first. In fact, I can keep it open, maybe it might be helpful over here. View image file. Also, first and foremost, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a project folder as usual. This is the project folder we're gonna use, and everything else in there is going to stay as a reference. So I could just do that. Let me close Photoshop. So all of this, except this maybe, goes into a new folder called reference. But this thing, I want to keep it out here, and let's connect it to 3ds Max. Open or view image file, right? There we go. And I'm gonna be able to keep it visible inside 3ds Max while I'm working. I might as well make it a little smaller so it doesn't hinder anything, and keep it within viewport or something. In this specific case, it would be nice to have a longer or wider screen, like, you know guys, the ultra wide screens that we have usually. Either way, I'm gonna start with a box. 20 by 20 is more than enough. Height wise, I have an impression that this looks very high. I mean, if this is about like 45 to 70, it's like we could put 4 armchairs like this. That's like 2.8 even, it's not really much. And the perspective is set up in such a way that there is perspective correction, obviously, and horizon line is on the lower third, and that looks cool. Anyway, I'm gonna make the height 2.8, and the width of this specific path, I mean, if we look at the floor boards, maybe we could somehow make out the actual dimensions, right? Maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. So if each board is about 20, maybe 1.8, 1.9 would be good enough. Maybe less, but let's try it, why not? So width, I'm gonna keep it at about 5 for now. I can make it more or less. The same thing we did for the AI interior recently on the other stream. I mean, that was not a stream, it was an upload, but anyway. I'm gonna add this, and I'm gonna add thickness to it. Well, not thickness, but more like a chamfer without any additional segments. And like 90 both ways, maybe 80, based on this reference. Okay, this looks good enough for now. And this one is unnecessary. I'm gonna add another one, which I'm gonna keep around here, I think. And that's gonna be 2.4. I like tall openings. I like openings in general instead of doors, of course, for extension of the spaces. And even if it is not a Walaikum Assalam Abdul Basit, even if it is not an opening, even if it is just a, I don't know, if it's just a door or something, it's still gonna look good if you make it wide, because when you connect spaces and there is an open door, the spaces look bigger in general, right? So yeah. Walaikum Assalam Zahra. So I'm gonna click 4, select this, create an opening. Shift extrude is the best tool lately, and maybe we can make a clone of this essentially. Or actually, let me do it like I did with the other one. These 20 is more than good enough. These and these. I don't know how much I might need, but based on this reference, the space over here is at least like 4 meters probably. Let's try that. And another extrude for 20, and connect these, and we're gonna get very clean walls, I guess. So obviously there's a room in front, and obviously we have light coming from somewhere on the side in this room as well, I guess. And it feels like a small window, but we're gonna find out soon. So let's create another, maybe this is a corridor or something. Let's make it like 3 meters. Then another 20. So yeah, we can connect these. That's it. The first and foremost thing, like always, let's create proper proportions. This image, if I right click on it, we can see the proportions on the top left of this pop-up window. The width is 736 by 920. Okay, not a problem. Right here, custom 736 920 in, okay, this is approximately what it looks like. So let me create a Corona camera already right from this view, and we do not need target. Let's make it straight first. Actually, this looks pretty close to what's happening over there anyway. And maybe I'm gonna make focal length like 35. This looks more reasonable. I can move it a little further, centralize it obviously, lower. That looks close enough. Maybe even lower actually, and I'm gonna maybe make it look a little more up. Yeah, that makes a little more sense. Vertical correction is there, and we need ceiling. And for the ceiling, I think I can even make the material very easily, very fast. It's just white ceiling. And we know the maximum white in general in 3D should not exceed something like 220, 230. And let me call it ceiling. We can adjust shading as well. So, my uncle, after complete design, can you drop it to, you know, maybe we can check it out, not Unreal Engine 5, but maybe in Twinmotion, because I didn't really have a chance to check out new Twinmotion, although I did install it. So we'll see. First, I want to try to get that image. Okay, let me reopen it. First, I want to try to get it done in 3ds Max using Corona, so there is no compromise in terms of rendering capabilities, right? So this looks close. Oh, also another thing, 2 lights. So we can see lighting from, I mean, there is no dark spots in general. We need another box for the floor. And let it be, maybe like this. This makes a little more sense. Also, in fact, you know what, I guess I'm just gonna make it very simple. I don't need save frames, and we can create an offset over here, or in this case specifically an inset, right? About 20 from all sides, extrude about a centimeter, and essentially that's what we get. And that plane can be detached to be used for the floor generator, right? So as clone, more than enough. And floor generator and stuff like that make life so much easier. I remember before discovering floor generator, I used to do everything manually. It was hell. Anyway, and do I have anything selected? Not anymore. Let me redrop it. There we go. I don't know why polygons show selected. I think I changed some settings. I'm not gonna bother with that at the moment. But let's say about 1 meter by 20. Does that make sense? And the type is, yes, herringbone at 45 degrees. Something like this. I think it makes sense. So let's see how it looks. Well, it's flipped, yes. So 135 it is then. Now that makes more sense. Again. And the material is also very easy, obviously. And regarding floor generator, and there is another important element, that is floor generator plus multi-texture, right? Nobody really uses multi-texture anymore. I mean, people probably use it because of a legacy function. Maybe it has something that Corona Multimap does not have. But in this specific case, all I need is a single plain wood texture. So we have our own project folder. There we go. Scene assets, images. A zbyt nie będzie mnie wsus. То есть qilayotgan harakatlarim, to есть hamma funksiyalarim bularda bilasizlar уже. Просто ingliz tilida ketyapti, to'g'rimi? So where is my window? Oh, no, it didn't open there. Let's see. Oh, okay, I locked the. Yeah, now I can open it. I have a library, and I have a pretty good library of textures, as you know, and you know where I got it all from. So, for example, wood. Think if it's something plain, I might as well use something like. Maybe we can get something new from the internet. Why not? Let's go to Ambient CG. The best place to get textures from. Va alaykum assalom Zuhriddin, yaxshimisan? Hop. Wood. Okay, based on the reference that we have, in fact, let me open it from here. Have it on the other screen. And what I need approximately is this, maybe. Looks good enough. Let me see if there's anything a little more interesting. This is a bit too bright, but actually I like the texture of this. This looks like a floorboard specifically. 4K is more than good enough. Let it download. I clicked it. Now we're gonna wait until it starts downloading. It is downloading now. And obviously, you know the rules about using certain materials and textures. Do not ever download it directly to your project. Keep it in the library just in case. You don't know when internet is gonna suddenly die, right? Especially in Uzbekistan. So I put it in the library first. I'm gonna unzip it using 7-zip, obviously. And it's wood 58, right? This is the one. I'm gonna take only those textures that I need. And these are the 3 that I need, and more than enough. More than sufficient. Also, I'm gonna take the preview out, so I know which one I'm using in the future as well. So let's get the color, and now we can apply it to floor generator, and this time I'm gonna do something else. I mean, the square texture that we got became compressed into this specific board, and the size of the board is 1 by 0.2 or 2 by or like 1 by 5 proportion specifically. So what I can do on top of floor generator is I'm gonna add UVWX form and find out which one. In fact, on top of floor generator, let me drop editable mesh, so the selection is non-issue. Okay, this is the one. Apparently if I make it 0.2, okay, so we found the proportion, but the direction is wrong, so I'm gonna rotate it by 90 degrees. So then I guess apparently I have to change this U channel. That's it. Also, regarding randomization, I don't have to worry much because floor generator already has UV channel randomization. But there is another thing, we're gonna find out about it later. What we're gonna do now is, specifically, I am really interested in doing this arc. I don't have to do it using editable poly, but why the heck not? Let's try. And maybe it will be a good idea if I detach this part specifically, or even do this. I can take this specific part, shift click on the edges, detach those edges, not even detach, but like create shape from selection. Linear is fine, and all of this can be deleted. I can click 3, take those corners and cap them, and this thing can have that fillet. In fact, I'm not going to use fillet, I'm going to add the spline chamfer modifier just in case, so I can keep procedural workflow. There we go. So let's see from the camera. This is not enough. Something like 50 looks about right. Now we can add extrude, but the problem with the extrude is going to be, let's see if it works. There, it's extruding up. To fix that, I think I'm going to take both of these modifiers first. Then I'm going to make this guy fall this way, like using angle snap, like 90 degrees. While it's flat on the ground, I'm gonna reset X form. Collapse it. Now I'm gonna add those modifiers, but before I add those modifiers, I'm gonna enable vertex selection, take this, then add those modifiers. Then I get approximately what I need. Now I can destroy it further. Maybe I can do this first, actually. Okay, so meant to be like that. 90 degrees. Like this. And how much did I extrude it for? Like 20 is good. And using edit poly, I'm gonna edit it a little further. I'm gonna delete polygons under and over. They're not really necessary. Maybe I'm not gonna touch the over ones. This is gonna help me chamfer these easily. Shift click on the edges, except this and that, and let's chamfer. How much? Looks like about 7.5 looks good. More than enough segments. And obviously we're gonna control something called radial bias. Search for it on the Google to be able to understand what it does. Okay. And this doesn't look bad, except I'm gonna add turbo smooth. And to be able to keep the form, I'm gonna use smoothing groups, separation. And can I ask it to work only with triangles? Or maybe I can do something a little different. Maybe slice plane would be of help. Like this. Here. I guess this would make sense. While slicing, actually I might as well pick everything up first. I mean, I don't want to slice over here. I want to slice over there. Now let's see if it works. Slice. Maybe here also. Actually using vertex mode. Here. Slice. And here, slice. This should help us keep the form overall in general when working with turbo smooth. Or I should have done better interpolation right from the beginning. Not a big problem. So I'm gonna put those there. There. That's it. Same thing over here. Just like that. Take it all, weld it all, everything looks pretty clean, I think. Let's see if turbo smooth gives us a little better result. It is actually, but we can do even better. Connect that, maybe that. Also we can remove extra edges where they're not needed. Like this guys. Remove. And maybe these guys. Remove. So now this looks not bad. It doesn't look great, but it looks smoother, so it looks nicer, I guess. It's gonna look fine enough for the material that I need. And also I can take bottom caps, create. Actually, you know what? I need to fix this first. What's the height of the floor that we're creating? 1.5. It was meant to be maximum like 0.7. 0.3, so it's under the walls, and from the walls I can take these borders, create shapes from those selections, and actually I can delete that. I did poly, take these, isolate those. I don't need these specific edges, and we can add height to it and volume to it using sweep modifier. Very simple bar profile. Take it up. Okay, why is this one going down? Because we can take it and probably this will help. Reverse. No, it did not help. Apparently what we can do is, other than that, maybe I can mirror it, instance it. Okay, that's it. And height probably 20. Thickness probably 3 maximum. maybe corner radius 0.3. Now this is gonna look good enough. Also, we still didn't save the interior apparently. Sudden interior 2023. A special guest or something from online viewer. Who? Alone Hunter? Who are you talking about? Alone Hunter. Who's she? Special guest or someone from online viewer? I don't know. I have two students next to me, but is there anyone online? I don't know. I didn't notice. Anyway, 2023. What else do we have? It's the second month and the second day, right? And it's the R00. That's the first revision of the project. Also, looks like we have windows. Yeah, I'm trying to be a little more diverse. Muslim. Hi, Muslim. How are you? Anyway, I'm happy that you guys are here. So it's going to be a little more fun for me as well. So let's create a simple window with the width of something like this. I think it's going to be enough. And maybe the height wise, we're going to have this be at about 80. So we're already gonna have enough light coming in from there, and in fact we're not gonna spend time creating extremely large, we're not gonna work on the windows because they're not visible, right? What we need here is the furniture. We're almost done with the interior itself. Hope nice to know that you're doing great, Mo. Happy to see you. Hope maybe here I'm gonna have a bigger opening, maybe like 2 meters wide and like this. So, and if I apply material, okay, this was the floor, this is gonna be the walls, and this. In fact I can have different material for those walls and these ones, right? So let this be the far wall with the texture like that, and I'm gonna create another material for the near wall, which is gonna have the same color as this. I can use pick color function, and maybe another one for the sweep. Let it call it a wall sweep, and it's gonna be just white essentially, but not necessarily extremely white. Maybe 200 is more than good enough to be bright enough. And this color might be a little more vibrant, more like this, and a little more reddish rather than yellowish. Slightly less color. This looks close to that, at least on my screen. Wouldn't say that it's exactly the right color, but it's good enough. Also, we're gonna need, based on this rough shadows and lights, we're definitely having and based on these specific lights, we're actually having a light coming in from the sun. Let's do it immediately. It feels like it's coming from somewhere here, like that. We will work on it obviously, but I can already render and add sky, of course. And since we have a camera, first and foremost thing I'm going to set up is, it already looks good, but let's do it right. Also, while rendering, I can see the difference between colors, right? So let's make it a little more yellow and little less colorful, it seems. Hope. Just like that. This is close enough, and a little less colorful, maybe a little less bright. Yeah, that looks good. And you know the rules. I'm gonna use camera's physical properties. This is insane, and I'm gonna use photographic exposure. As much as people don't like it, I love it. Okay, so with the physical exposure, this is actually pretty nice. And thanks to ACES, no burnt out pixels in general. Also, speaking of the sun, and let's enable two things. Actually, disable denoising, lock view. This doesn't look bad. And also, this darkness is achieved using actually this darkness is due to vignetting, I suppose. Let's see. Maybe like 2. Yeah, close enough. 1.5. Yes. So we're halfway there already. The size of the sun, I mean, based on those, is something like 5. Yes. And the light should be falling from, let us see, a little further and a little lower. Yeah, something like that. And looks like our windows are supposed to be a little smaller. Maybe like on the y-axis 20. Yes. From here as well, minus 20. And the height-wise, not 80, more like 90 probably. So 10 more up. And from here, well, it's not going to be exactly the same. Maybe I can make it lower by another 20. This is close enough. Also, what I need is, I don't need the window itself, but I can do something like this just for the frame. Just like that. And edit poly. If I'm gonna have a frame 5 centimeter width and here as well, and I'm gonna add another loop here, loop there, while both of them are selected, I'm gonna chamfer them mutually by more like 1.5 centimeters. So this is good enough. I'm gonna take all of these vertices and move them up, something like this, maybe 10. Also, I feel like all of this should go away. In fact, I'm gonna take all of this first. Well, since it doesn't really matter, I could do that anyway, but let's do it properly. All of this, shrink, extrude by like 5, maybe 10 centimeters, and take this now and shift drag it. That makes sense. And I can add symmetry over here, I suppose. On X, flipped. And to fix what's happening there, I should be able to move these lines a little away from the center. Maybe something like that is more than enough. And now if we look at the render, we have those lines. So looks like the center line has to be a little thicker anyway. That means this one. We can shift drag it all the way up, outside that is. Now we can get that thicker line just like here. I mean, it feels like it. So, and it's not exactly symmetrical. I should make it a little less, but this is good enough. Also, we don't have that texture over there, so it's going to look better once we have that texture. And that texture looks to me, what does it look like? There was a concrete like that. Let me see. I think I have it somewhere. Maybe on ambient CG. The camera should be set a little lower based on the reference. Probably we're going to do that. Yes, of course. Concrete. There was a concrete like that in Lumion, by the way. So with concrete with stripes. Or maybe I've seen something similar, but not necessarily here. It feels like something like this, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna use this. I like it. I think 2K version probably might be enough, just in case. We don't want to overload it. And there are so many different ways we can do it better. So what we usually do is we take the downloaded textures into our collection first. We copy it from here to our, what would you call it, project folder, and so on and so on. There we go. Concrete 004. All I need is color, normal DX, and roughness maybe. Color is also black and white, so it's not necessarily a huge thing, but let's see how it behaves in 3ds Max. This is the wall sweep, this is the orange wall maybe. Yes, by the way, Muslim, it looks like fabric, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like a wallpaper that is close to fabric. But for the far wall, let's see. I mean, we can replicate it using so many things, right? And I'm gonna use this. And we definitely need UVW map box, maybe something like 200, 200, 200 for now. And use the gizmo to rotate that, maybe even smaller, except height, in this case width, could be taller. So let's see what it looks like when we add other channels. For now, roughness, and the normal channel is going to make it all. In fact, not a bitmap. You know the rule. We connect Corona normal map first, add gamma to input, and then connect the normal map immediately. There it is. Let's see how it looks during render. It's not exactly the same, and the color doesn't match actually, but for the color I have an idea. Also, let's check the material itself first. It's too shiny. It has to be very, what would you call it? It has to be very rough. So we can do it using the color map inside the output. Make the brighter points even brighter. So that looks more or less right. Something's off with the normal map, or maybe it's just a little too much. Mansur Khan yaxshimisan? Hello, hello. So let's make the bump a little less. There we go. Maybe like this. Yeah. And roughness has to be even rougher actually. And I can do it using this as well. And regarding the color, I think I'm gonna multiply it. RGB multiply, color 1, and the color 2, you're never gonna guess, is going to be gradient ramp. No? Den, добрый день, как ты? В общем, we're gonna continue from here, and I think we're gonna be able to see the gradient. As you can see, for whatever reason, we're not able to see the gradient because apparently RGB multiply was not connected. Now it is. And if I enable the gradient, this is what it looks like. Apparently, for whatever reason, it has to be actually smaller. But let's see how it looks in the render. It's supposed to repeat with the main texture actually. So yeah. And it has to be rotated 90 degrees, just like that. That's what I'm actually aiming for. But the gradients should not be all that huge. Yes, because we have something like that over here, but this color has to be brighter, maybe something like an orangey anyway. Yes, but not necessarily that saturated. But this color can be gray, and I can copy paste that, and we're gonna get something that is not all that Okay, so it has to be even brighter. Even brighter, even brighter, if possible. Oh, also, another thing is our main original texture is also not so, what would you call it, bright enough. What if I just delete that? It's gonna get very bright. It looks good enough. This is gonna get a little brighter as well. Less colorful, that is. Another reason why this looks weird is our sun is 18 years old and has to move out. But actually, our sun is yellowish. And we need to make it white. Now that makes a little more sense. Not exactly what I expected, and the proportions are slightly off. I think my opening is wider, but it's okay. I like wide openings. Who doesn't? Now, okay, so the floor is not necessarily... Did I connect other channels? I think I didn't, so let's make the floor complete. Who... English new level, I've been waiting for you. Yeah, I've been here. Я хорошо, Дэн, как у тебя все? Рад, что подключился. Anyway, let's connect other channels. Let's see what happens. Roughness. Floor is gonna be very reflective now, but we can always make it a little more, a little brighter. There we go. Maybe slight more contrast over here, and just like this we're getting a more of a matte floor. I don't even think we need a bass bump, but why the heck not? Let's see if it looks good. There we go. There it is. And it's very bumpy. I think I'm gonna make bump a little less. Maybe something like this. Yes, now I like it. Also, technically we're done with the interior. I mean, we're gonna work on it a little more if necessary, but I think the sun should be a little less bright, but the sky should be brighter. I'm gonna move sky over here. I'm gonna take the sun and make him less intense, maybe even less, and I'm gonna make the sky brighter using sky's own function, just like that. Now this makes way more sense. Also, another problem, we do not have direct sunlight over here, so probably we should make that window either very small or maybe even remove it, but I think it should exist, so let's see how it works. And the result is up. Maybe I'll just take this and make it just like that. There. Now that makes more sense, it seems to me. So not exactly like here, but something like that. Maybe we have more than one windows. It's like if I move it to all the way there. Actually, this looks much nicer. Yeah. Maybe a little brighter. So just a simple opening trick does all the work. So vignette can be less as well. And this is getting dark over here, almost exactly the way we want it. Also, I'm not seeing those strips or stripes or whatever we might call them. There are several ways to do them right, actually. So I'm gonna think about it. I'm not gonna sleep until I find out. But actually, if we render it a little longer, I'm gonna start seeing those strips apparently. It's not bad. And that gradient is still a bit too strong. Maybe we should make it a little less dark. Let's see. In fact, almost white. Now that looks nice. And repetition is probably a little too much, so help me UVW. Something like that, maybe. Actually, it was good. Yeah. Also, I have another option for that. Maybe what I can do is I'm gonna reduce the tiling of the gradient. That is 0.5, yes, but I'm gonna increase diversity right over here with different gradients. Something like this, and this, and this, and one more. And since we have diversity, it doesn't look exactly the same. Well, we have certain darkness over there, but it's manageable. There, so it's this guy. Maybe I'll make this guy a little brighter as well. That is over here. And maybe we need something brighter over there. Just like that. This, for proper transition, needs to be exactly the same color. And this might not be necessary. Okay, this looks fine, I think. Yeah. This is nicer. I think because of diversity, I mean because it doesn't look like it's repeating exactly the same all the way through. That's it, I'm gonna finish the stream. Nah, just kidding. We're gonna finish it all, if possible. So what we have next is, it's a very simple object over there. I don't think we're gonna waste much time on it. It's gonna be a simple box that's gonna represent a, I think I made it in the wrong place. I guess I just didn't make it. It's this. It's a carpet, apparently. Centralized, of course. All the way to the wall. And let's do proper dimensions. 3 meters seems reasonable. Centimeter seems more than reasonable, maybe even half. And height, I mean length in this case, probably 1.8 maybe. That's good enough, as long as it's not interfering with the wall. And the carpet is also rather simple. I don't see any specific texture there, so I'm gonna make it what? I'm gonna create a physical material, apply that, and maybe make it a little brighter. It doesn't necessarily need, I mean, we don't really need a texture, but why not? Let's do the concrete texture that we have, which is essentially this. And we're gonna make it brighter, that's it. And to be able to make it brighter, output amount is more than enough. Maybe 2, apparently, not burning. And actually, I might need color map anyway, to lose some of that contrast. Like that. Also, move dark spots up. That looks interesting. So let me call it a carpet. Apply it. Also, I want to make it a little more deformed, so I can add quadify mesh, for example, with 1%. And I could use tessellation as well, but quadify mesh is nicer in the sense. I'm gonna add editable mesh, and let's deform it using shift from freeform functions. It's a little up over here, maybe here as well, maybe a little moved there, and so on. Just a little deformation to make it look just a little more realistic. Of course, 1 turbo smooth level is gonna be more than enough. I think it should look fine for the render now. Okay, we have certain deformations. That looks like a carpet. So, the thing is, this furniture is too easy. Let's not make it. I think I've done similar furniture in so many groups already, so let's see how it looks. Хоп, Дэн. Круто, круто. Я рад, что ты все еще с нами, Дэн. So, Дэн, as he's in the chat right now, he's one of my older students, one of the veterans, and he's one of those very, extravaganza, the man of extravaganza. You're also here. Very nice to see you. And yeah, Dan was one of those people who got the certification very easily because he proved that he is very capable right in the place. I mean, when he came for examination. You know the rule, when we make the furniture and so on, I'm gonna open another 3ds Max instance, obviously. I'm not gonna do everything inside a single file because that's ridiculous. So, this file has been saved. This Max does not need to be closed. What I have in general here is, I have 64 GB RAM. That means I have more than enough space to run multiple instances of Max. So, nothing to worry about. And now we wait until second Max opens. And while I wait, I'm gonna have some water. While we're waiting, if you guys have questions, you can ask. Also, Sonmi, Lisa, you guys, if you have questions, you can also ask. Okay, so they asked private questions, which have received private answers. So it's all right. Now then, okay, second Max is open, and we have a reference of this. And let's start with this guy. I think this guy is gonna take a little longer than the rest. So what we're gonna do is, first thing that I have in mind, I'm gonna create a, you won't believe this, but I'm gonna create a box, which is gonna have like 60 by 60 range, more than enough. Height is 40, more than sufficient. Edit poly, and immediately open subdiv. Why open subdiv, not turbo smooth? Because open subdiv has UV boundary controls. This is the one that we need most of the time. Anyway, I'm gonna do some loops. It just seems to me it would be more than enough if I did this. Maybe like, actually, inset, not insert. Like 5 centimeters is more than enough. Also, not for the entire thing, only for this part. 5 cm is more than enough. And if I add one loop over here, and if I add loops right here, just like that, and move this a little out, and this guy a little up, and that's gonna give us exactly what we need. And take all of that, move it by y-axis like 5 centimeters, actually z-axis in this specific case, and so on. So because we're gonna have that round element from under to hold the armchair, right? And I think I'm gonna make the top part even more round or like puffy, like that. Now I like it a lot more. And the best part is I'm gonna use maybe on a single level without isoline. If we check it out, actually this looks good enough. I'm gonna add edit poly. I'm gonna be able to check, get this specific loop, maybe a little more, convert to faces, and detach those as clone, not as element. That's it. I don't need that anymore, and open subdiv can go all the way to 3 levels. This thing can have, I don't think I need this at the moment, but the rest will go up. In fact, I can add FFD 3 by 3 and pull those parts up. Yes, this looks close enough, I think. And I'm gonna move the lower parts down, just like that. And we're gonna add shell modifier, maybe like 10 centimeters, and add that open subdiv. But above shell, I'm gonna add edit poly. And as you can see, this is the more defined edge, it seems to me. But there is also, what would you call it? A seam going from the middle, which is gonna be added after smoothing, I suppose. Something like this should do the trick, yes. And overall, this doesn't look bad. However, I'm gonna add one more loop somewhere here to be able to hold the lower part steadier. I don't know if it makes sense. Another thing is, I might need one more loop over here anyway, because I think we have like puffness In fact, all around. Locally. This looks more right to me. Also, on a lower level of open subdiv, gonna make it unique, add edit poly, add one more extrude over here, maybe something like this. Apply. Another one like this. Apply like this. And all I need is smooth. You get the idea. So we know where the panels have been sewn together. Another part is over here, in fact. There and maybe there. That looks symmetrical to me. So yeah, Control Alt when you use Swift Loop to adjust the loop later. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like adds flow to the Swift Loop, but I didn't mean to add flow to this. I wanted to keep it, what would you call it, flat. That's why. So anyway, let's add some extrude here. Maybe just a little more, like this. And again, additional smoothing. That should do the trick. This looks good enough. Maybe I can now add one more smoothing with one more level of open subdiv. This looks good enough. And also, it might look nice if I add this. It just might. Extrude it there. Actually, I should have added some relax to relax this flow, probably. Yes. So the transition is not that bad. Apply. Lesser, inner, apply. Okay, I'm not even gonna smooth it, just gonna add open subdiv again on top. And this might look a little more logical. Also, in the lower edit poly, I have to move this guy up. And since I'm changing the structure but not changing anything else, I mean, I'm not changing the structure, I'm just deforming the form, it's gonna be fine. It's not gonna have Ibrahim, okay, Control Alt you mean? Oh, okay, let me check it out, why not? So, Swift Loop, as far as I know, Shift, yes, that was the Shift one. So Control Alt does what? You're probably thinking about Blender or something, because when I'm adding Swift Loop, Control Alt does nothing. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. Who knows? Or maybe... Okay, anyway. So I'm not really sure what you meant, but I'm gonna look into that, because apparently that's one function that I never used. So overall this looks not bad, but of course we need a cylinder on the ground to be able to hold this thing. Maybe not that big, maybe something like 50 is enough. So yeah, Rahmat, adrenaline music. Might be edge, could be snapped. Maybe, who knows? I don't know that. Because, you know, Swift Loop, the idea behind Swift Loop itself is usually having complete free loop capability, right? This has to be 5, by the way. I mean, absolutely unconstrained loop. Okay, this is looking good enough. And maybe I can make it a little less, like 3. And move it all on Y, 2 centimeters down, and here let's make it a little more detailed right away, maybe even 64 segments, more than enough. The Swift Loop, Control Alt can make the loop exact to the yes, I think I saw it in what was it called, Arimus video. I think he showed it last, right? Got it. I will definitely use that. Thank you, Ibrahim, much appreciated. So what we can do is, I don't need any extra geometry, all I need is chamfer, maybe like 0.5 actually would make sense here. There we go. Добрый день, Grigory. So this doesn't look bad. Yeah, and maybe chamfer should be a little less. 0.3 seems a little more reasonable. Also, I have an impression that this thing also has a little more. If I add edit poly, move it a little up on Z, maybe like a centimeter or even half a centimeter, I feel like it would make sense if we add a little more indent over here as well, like maybe 1 cm, extrude by half a cm, and that's it. And chamfer could be even less in this case, and this might make a little more sense. Yes, I like it. Any small detail is always better. Anyway, overall, this doesn't look bad. And as you know, we already create simple studio using like splines, but for the backdrop and several lights. Those are necessary because if I bring it into the main project and then start working on it, that's going to be a little more, I don't know, inconvenient, because when you have too many objects, it's going to take longer to render. But if you have a dedicated lighting for the object, it's going to be much faster. Maybe this would be more than enough. Also, adaptive and extrude by like 50 meters should make the, I think it's going to be fine. Maybe I'll make it a little longer here too, and centralize the backdrop. And all I need is shadow catcher for the background, and I need physical material for these guys. And you know the golden rule, right? It is always easier to unwrap in certain cases. Good thing is we have open subdiv on the highest level above. By the way, I can instance that modifier as well. That would make a little more sense. Yes. In fact, even before adding that open subdiv, I'm gonna cut it, and let's make the material very easily. I mean, I'm not gonna search for the exact material, but it doesn't matter. Ну да, говорим на 3 языках по возможности. У меня группы тоже по обучению на 3 языках, да? Да, спасибо, Григорий, за хорошие, добрые слова. So anyway, I have several simple fabric textures, not that advanced, but for example, specifically what I like is, I mean, this is the new type of fabric that we usually see on 3D or something like that, yeah? Or 3D Sky or some of those stock model sites. And I don't really like the aesthetic of that fabric. But this, for example, as far as I know, this is called something like velour. I love this material in general. But I'm not going to use exactly the color of this fabric 22. Let me check. There we go. I'm going to use a roughness channel, normal channel, and that's going to be it. Let's see what happens. Let's use roughness as the color map, and let's see how it looks after I unwrap this. Unwrapping it is going to be fun. And as you know, flatten it all. The good thing is about the way we make the model, apparently something happened here. So, okay. This works fine. Here, something is wrong. I feel like inside edit poly, over here, I might have needed this, and I need to push it a little more inwards. Yes, now that makes sense. And going back to unwrap modifier, let's, what would you call it? Very high resolution and high depth textures. Yes, of course, by the way, I always keep forgetting about bridge, so I might use that to get better texture. But for now, let's unwrap this. Yeah, I need surfaces and fabric category. There we go. And yes, something like this actually. This looks close to what we need. This is epic texture. In general, I mean, even in reality, this is very comfortable texture. But we can find more. In fact, why not? Let's download this and use that. So, while unwrapping, what I love about latest versions of Max, specifically in this case, we're talking about Max 22, 23, Control B, and over here as well. By the way, in case, for example, in case you're having difficulty transitioning to the newer versions of 3ds Max. Like if you're still sitting on the 3ds Max 2020 and you cannot transition to 22, 23 because they have different hotkeys, you can use mine. I think I'm gonna, where is it? There we go. I have it on the Telegram channel. There it is. I'm gonna drop it to the comment section actually, just in case. So if you load it using 3ds Max hotkey editor, technically it's gonna work exactly the same as 2020, with certain new hotkeys appearing which did not exist in the older versions, of course, because of certain new functions. But otherwise it's exactly the same, if it is convenient for you. So in fact I'm gonna break over here as well. I could continue, but I think we could do it. There and there. Control B. That's it. And now we have unfold algorithm finally, so why not? Quick peel it. Pew, that is all. In fact, I'm not gonna adjust anything, let it be chaotic. I mean, I could do it, I could just rotate, I could pack it. I mean, what I mean specifically is, maybe I can do linear packing, which is gonna make it a lot easier, right? So it's gonna horizontalize everything when we rotate clusters. It didn't care. Maybe I should do it using polygon mode. Now that makes a little more sense. As you can see, it's not as chaotic now. So collapse it and let's change these textures into those that are downloaded from Megascans right now. I could just send it, but I like having all of those textures in my own. Like I need albedo, normal, and roughness. In fact, transmission should be useful if I'm making a slightly translucent type of fabric, for example, for the curtains and so on. But as you know, I love having all those textures neatly organized in my own collection. Like I'm gonna be copying it to our project folder and connecting everything from here. Selling 3D models, I can't sell them even though the value of the model is high compared to price. Well, obviously, depends on where you put it. I think CG Trader gives better prices than any other, and it is less strict in terms of. But you see, I don't usually sell. Только в 3ds Max или в других программах тоже. Григорий, отвечу сразу, все вот эти программы мы используем, допустим, вообще в работе конкретно вот эти все используются, да, то есть Max, Revit, CAD, Lumion и Photoshop, само собой. Если нужно, скажем, адаптивно сделать ткань, то, конечно же, Marvelous, где-то там, например, нестандартная шторка, да, невозможно использовать скачанную модель. И если где-то нужно сделать более адаптивную растительность, то я предпочитаю Speed 3. Я знаю, что есть два стандарта, Speed 3 и GrowFX, да? Но почему Speed 3? Потому что я с ним изначально работаю. Я знаю, что GrowFX крутой, но получается, я его никогда не использовал. Говорят, что он еще круче, чем Speed 3. Вот так. ZBrush тоже иногда для детализации некоторых моделей можно поэкспериментировать, да? А для, скажем, real-time визуализации обязательно либо Lumion, особенно для экстерьеров, конечно, или же Twinmotion, опять же, то есть в зависимости от того, чего хочет клиент. Real-time презентацию какую-нибудь интерактивную или просто крутую анимацию, да? Вот. What I just said in Russian was all the programs that you see over here, I use them in production if necessary. Also, another thing, I mean, getting back to the question from Ibrahim, I don't really sell models. I am the type of a guy who usually buys models if necessary. I mean, in fact, I do teach how to model, as you can see, but it's fun for me to do in general as a hobby, but I never sell models. I use them in real projects, and usually I don't even take projects that has to be done fast. I do commercial projects, but only the type which gives enough time, something like unique projects that require designing, not just assembling or randomizing from existing designs or something like that, yeah? So if you want more information about selling models, I recommend YouTube, I guess. But then again, it's all about amount. I can give you an example about a local people who sell models. They don't sell like several models, like 5-10 models. They sell like 500 or over 1,000 models, and they keep updating them as needed. So they stay fresh and on demand. But the thing is, they generate profit, like a passive profit, not from several good models, but a lot of simple models. Yeah, I mean, on a great count of models, I say, they work for the masses, not just for the quality, I guess. So anyway, I mean, not masses. It would be proper to say quantity rather than quality. Oh, I think I saw the type of a texture that I needed for the wall on bridge, but yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, I'm gonna take the albedo map. In fact, diffuse map, color map, and albedo map are essentially the same thing in most of the cases. Ah, this looks great. I love it. And of course, to be able to, what would you call it? Control the scale of the map on an object, I'm gonna use UVWX form. I think 5 by 5 times reduction should be more than enough. Yes. Also, I'm gonna paste that open subdiv now, and everything looks pretty good. Also, I don't need this specific color, so I might as well keep the base color around white. Let's see. This looks good. And I'm gonna reduce the effect of this texture to about 10%. It's barely visible, but it's there. But we're gonna get the detail thanks to bump map, mainly. Corona normal, the usual procedure. We all know how it works, right? And there we go. And since it's a fabric, I love having sheen on fabric. I mean, this is golden function in, what would you call it? Corona physical material. Also, to be able to see how it looks, let's see, like a sudden interior couch. Ooh, this was bad, but thanks to the fact that we have another max open, we didn't lose it. Imagine if I closed this max and suddenly saved it because I misclicked on my keyboard and I overridden the file. This is supposed to be sudden interior couch or armchair. Of course, I can have multiple revisions, yeah? Ya mayli panda nima yasash qiziqarli bo'ladi. To есть tayyor modellarda ishlatish qiziqarli, lekin yasash qiziqarli bo'ladi. So I have been offered to be given the model, which is very appreciated. Thanks a lot, Mr. Panda. But it's fun to make sometimes. I mean, what I love about my job specifically is I have fun making all of this stuff. By the way, another awesome thing about physical material, we discussed it in the Uzbek stream that we had a couple of days ago, I think. We have presets. I love brass, brushed. And maybe I can make it, actually this is fine. Yeah. Let me check the reference. I can't remember what the metal looked like. It is brassy, yes, nice. Maybe I can make it a little more red. Ish, something like on the hue, there we go, a bit darker. Now this looks like the image, so I'm gonna group it. Of course, this is gonna be a basic couch or armchair. So let's see how it looks when we render it, but to be able to do that I need some rectangular lights. Maybe I will be happy with this. Maybe I will want another one, maybe even as an instance from a side, something like that. Let it be here. Let's see what it looks like when we try to render. Okay, why is it looking so over bright? Because the lighting is a little too much, first of all. Secondly, I want to see the detail of the fabric. To be able to do that, all I need is turn off the denoiser, lock the view, and maybe move the VFB a little so it fills the entire frame. And now what we're gonna do is move it a little further back. As you can see, now I can see detail on it. The sheen is doing a great job. So what I'm not seeing is, yes, bump is there, but I think I made the fabric a little too small on the X form. Like 3 by 3 seems to be good. Yeah, this looks nice. So I think this is acceptable for the conceptual design that we're doing. And what I need from here is right away the element on the bottom. I'm gonna create a copy, and right on top of it I'm gonna create another cylinder, because I'm trying to make this, and it's yeah, it is a cylinder. It's very simple, I guess. Xo'p, Sherzod ovoz pasmasda prosta dinamik pas bo'lsa kerak sizlarda. Chunki nima bu yerda, to есть hozir balandroq qo'yarsam, ba'zi kompyuterlarda, ba'zi dinamiklarda уже do'rilab ketadi-da. Shuni oldini olish uchun sal pastroq qo'yaman-da ovozni. Zato tiniq boradi, balandroq qilsalaring ham hozir tiniq chiqadi-da. Xo'p, another thing is, it seems very simple. I'm going to create a simple cylinder, move it there, 3 centimeters above that, and the height, maybe 30 overall. Also, I feel like not even 30, it's even less, maybe like 25. Here we can have 30, and I'm gonna be able to add edit poly and get this guy a little further in. Also, more inwards, maybe like that, even more inwards. Okay, here's the thing. Everybody says, yeah, of course, Rafiki, I'm speaking English, but since the audience is speaking in multiple languages, I'm trying to answer in the language that is understandable to the people as well, yeah? So, but of course, the main language of this stream is in English. So anyway, I can just collapse this. It might look okay, but maybe I should do something a little different. Maybe I can make even less segments for the beginning. And first, let's see the reference. First shift is gonna be like this, but here I'm gonna be able to quad cap it using rapid tools. Geometry, no, topology, rapid Q cap. Okay, for it to be able to work, I need to work with editable poly, not edit poly modifier. So rapid Q cap. Now that looks fine. And maybe I can relax those edges a little. The most important thing about this is, okay, I'm gonna do it like this, and here as well, one more, and collapse that. Essentially that's what we have. And I can have one more loop there, maybe just a little wider, also to be able to keep this part a little defined. I'm gonna add chamfer. Open subdiv might help, more than sufficient. And the top seems to be, I mean, I could make it a little more puffy. Let me take all of that. Let me move it a little up. Now that looks nice. Also, while all of that is selected, relax it a little more. Why not? Overall, transitions on the surface are going to be very smooth because of quadification sometimes. So this doesn't look bad. Maybe even over here I can add and scale it just a little, more than enough. Why did I have to scale it over here? Because it feels a little more I don't know, precise when you do it from here instead of doing it from the gizmo. So what we're gonna do next is, after a single level of open subdiv, I'm gonna definitely unwrap it. And there's not much to do regarding unwrapping a cylinder. So we shall, in the open subdiv, remove isoline of course, and in the unwrap, also in open subdiv, make sure nothing is selected. Nothing is in terms of sub-element. And while I have all of these polygons, what an interesting situation, eh? Yeah, F2. Remove all the seams, add seams over here, Control B. But of course, even if the fabric is going to be going all the way around, it will eventually stop somewhere. So I'm gonna add another seam, maybe right over here, Control B. And here, I'm gonna open the UV editor, and I'm gonna do the loop select. I mean, select this specific part, which is a UV loop selection, right? Loop UV, Control B, that's it. This is gonna be easily unwrapped. And maybe just in case, I'm gonna have to make it a little like this. And lately, flattening is working a little nicer. Unfolding it, unfolding it, unfolding it. I can flatten it actually. It's gonna have a little stretch in the fabric. We can check it out immediately with this. But overall, it's gonna look nice. Maybe I can enable visibility of this original fabric, just like that. But overall, I have an impression that it looks fine. Yeah. And let me see the other object. We have X form here. I'm not sure if this is gonna help, but I mean if it's gonna be the same, but let's see. Yeah, actually it's pretty close. It's not bad. Let me move it a little closer just to be able to see. Yeah, it's actually pretty close. Now this is nice. Also the seam has been hidden over here. Even if we actually are able to see the seam, it's not gonna be noticeable because it's also especially because of the texture itself, which is so grainy, such a tiny microscopic texture. That's why. So anyway, this thing belongs to that group. We need to detach it because it's part of the poof, and that's the armchair, and obviously the pivot is gonna be on the ground, in fact centralized all the way if possible. Yeah, and this guy, we're gonna group this as well, call it simple poof, simple poof that is, and we're gonna use the pivot again, drop it down. That's more than enough. Save it. So since we have like two groups, it's gonna be way easier. Anyway, let's put it in the main project and see how it goes already. This is the couch and armchair and poof. The rest is unnecessary. And I did not give names to certain materials, and material names are conflicting. I'm gonna auto rename them. It's very easy. And these objects have to be here, but they should be a little above the carpet, right? Avoid intersections if possible. Unhide all. Okay, I just realized one thing. Actually, it's not that bad. Maybe we can move it a little closer and make the back wall a little less. I have an impression the things could be bigger. Just for the sake of the perspective, by the way. Yeah, that looks fine. Also, my couch is a little different than the couch on the reference. But let's see what the render says. I think the, what would you call it? Sun is a little too bright still. So might as well make it a little less bright. Where is it? 0.1. Now I can even see details behind the sunlight. Maybe even less. And that looks like old style Corona sun. In fact, I can keep it realistic at this point. Yeah. So 0.1 seems reasonable. And the size 5, maybe even 3 is good enough. Вот. Rahmat Husnuddin, yo'q, xudoga shukr, charchash yo'q. Xo'p, okay, I didn't really follow the proportions. My couch looks way off, but that's not the point. Now, another easy thing to do is the lamp. Okay, let me show you. I have an impression that it's gonna be very easy. So, it is essentially a rectangle. I mean, look at this. It's just a rectangle with 2 legs holding it, and this, what would you call it? This is the part that needs to be held up. But also, unlike here, or maybe it is like that over here, I want to make it a perfect tripod. I mean, equiliteral, super symmetric tripod. For that, what I have in mind is, let's say I have like something like this. and I can delete this line. Pivot, it is already in the center. Hafiz. Walaikum assalam, rahmat. So I'm gonna rotate it 120 degrees and generate 3 copies. And it's gonna keep its supersymmetry already. And this one is going to extend. I mean, what I'm gonna do specifically is make it unique. Take it and rotate it, like Control Shift rotation is necessary in this case because Max 23 has, I'm gonna put it approximately over here, maybe even like this, and we can extend, right? We can trim the unnecessary part. We can weld it all, and we can make it all corner and make over here fillet, something like 3 centimeters should be fine, it seems. And now I think I'm gonna take all of this, give it a sweep, and based on the reference, it's a very thin sweep, so I feel like it's a cylinder and the radius could be less than a centimeter, maybe even a centimeter. Yes, this looks good enough. And I have an impression that over here I can create something like a cylinder again. I mean, certain details are not necessary, I would say. I mean, this is gonna be 90 degrees and it must have, let's say 32 segments, and I'm gonna align it face to face, approximately like that, and radius actually has to be fixed first. Let it be a little thicker over here. So the height may be something like 5 centimeters. No local segmentation necessary. We're gonna move it locally a little lower, something like this. And in fact, I can generate the rest of the, what would you call it? I could generate the rest of the lamp right from this. I'm gonna add edit poly. I'm gonna take this guy locally, or actually on a gimbal direction. I'm gonna make it bigger. Let's keep the proportion. I mean, it's definitely even bigger than that, something like that. Swift loop is gonna probably help to make it like locally, or again on a gimbal direction, wider like that. I feel like this is close to what I need, and maybe this part a little less but a little wider. I mean, this looks not bad. And here we can simply chamfer, right? More segments, radial bias, more segments. Okay, that's more than enough. Even here, I don't feel the need to specifically create any additional geometry. Let it stay closed, right? So maybe, by the way, let's grow it a little thinner, maybe like that. That is more than enough. So, and the overall material is just simple black metal, right? Walaikum assalam rahmatullah. So, lamp, black metal. But I have an impression I might need a multi-sub-object material because the lamp itself is going to have inner and outer material. That is necessary in this specific case. So first material is simple metal. We can take chrome as a base, make it a lot more rough, and make it essentially black. But something like 60, maybe 50 is enough to make it black enough. And I need only 2 materials. So the second material that is over here is going to be simple gray material. It doesn't even have to be white. So let's call it lamp shade inside. And this is more than enough. Oh, Ula, how are you? Are you still alive? I feel like you have too much work to do and you forgot about us. I even remember Michael Jackson now. So anyway, this is going to be the multi-sub object, but I'm going to apply black material to everything except the lamp, which is going to have the multi-sub. And on the lamp, the inner parts, like this, is going to have, in fact, I'm going to add additional inset over here. Slight inset makes more sense. So the rest is going to be, where is my material ID? That's the 2. That's great. Control I, that's going to be 1. Perfect. In fact, make it smooth 30. And also, I need light. I'm going to put it there, wherever it is, and I'm going to make the radius a lot more reasonable. And it doesn't have to be a round light. It should be I think it could be a disc light. Because why waste energy for the light, right? There we go. Like that. Minimal radius, but it's on the inside. Doesn't have to come out too much. I guess this is good. No occlusion necessary, and even probably no direct visibility. Something like 5 is good enough, and it's going to be very bright. I mean, if I render it right now, it's going to give enough light as it is. Yes, it is. Important element. Yes, it's giving light outside. I'm going to make it something like 150 for now. We're going to call it lamp light. It is necessary for avoiding confusion when we prepare, for example, light mix function. If necessary, we'll see. So this is a simple lamp, and all of this is going to be grouped as simple lamp. Save it. Now, inside the main, oh, look at that, the rendering has been going on for a while. This doesn't look bad actually. So I'm gonna import the lamp into the main project as well. There are certain things that I did not consider, certain errors that we could actually fix, but it doesn't matter. It's not such a big deal. I would say, yeah, apparently this guy can be a little more, maybe 320. Well, this doesn't work anymore because we have edit poly, and over here, in fact, I can take the entire thing and make it manually bigger. If I want to be super precise, I can enable snapping for scale, right? And this lamp should be more on the front side and on the side. This doesn't look bad. Yeah, this guy could be a little more there, a little more like that apparently. This thing, actually it's a little more like this, but yeah, let it be like that. So this is the part that is the most difficult, isn't it? Well, actually it's not. Let's check it out. As much as I hate using hair and fur, and this is the specific case where the hair and fur would be very useful, and I'm going to generate it from a simple sphere with the radius of maybe like 5 centimeters at most. Look what's going to happen if I add hair and fur. There we go. But let's make that hair much bigger. Well, it is already okay. No randomness scale, I mean, and the amount of hair could be around 100, I think, maybe 200. So let's make the hair itself maybe the elements themselves. Nah, maybe guys, right, longer, using styling. There was a way to lengthen. I can't remember which function that was actually, but let's see. Scale. There we go. Yes. Yes. Now that makes sense. So the hair has to be even more thicker at this point on the root and even on the tip, and we should scale it even further, it seems. Style hair, scale hair, even more, maybe something like this. So the next important thing I'm gonna do in this specific case is I'm gonna haircut. So it's about time we got a haircut. Maybe like this, and there on the back is not necessary. But over here, let me look at the reference. These are the parts I'm gonna cut. Something like this might make sense. I'm not sure, but why the heck not? This is approximately what it should look like. But maybe I should increase the number of hair. I have only 200. Maybe 1,000 makes sense. Yeah, this makes a lot more sense. And even the original object could have a lesser radius. Yes, now this looks really good. In fact, the object in the middle doesn't even have to be visible. So technically I can apply a material and make it transparent. All I need to do is remove opacity of that object. And all I have in here is the clump of hair. So I should be able to edit it a little further, maybe like using hair and fur styling once again. Just like that. And I can use scaling again for certain parts, like here, maybe here, yes, and here, vice versa. Well, you get the idea. And I'm gonna create a simple line from here, click, like here. This is gonna be the stem or something, more than enough. And I'm gonna have it added thickness was only box, right? More than enough. Maybe even like this, maybe even less like this. I mean, overall we can take all of this and make even bigger. Yeah, actually the hair overall needs to be scaled. I have an impression that hair became a lot smaller. So while styling hair, we can scale everything up, let it fill that much space. Now that looks nice. So now I need the bottle, and for a change let's create that bottle using just a simple line. I don't think it's more than like 5 centimeters in radius, but something like this makes sense. I feel like I could make it something like this. I don't even need to create the inside. Here I can create a fillet. Walaikum assalam akramjon, yaxshi rahmat. So I can take this and add takarny stanok in Russian, but lathe modifier in general. And something like 64 segments is gonna make it very clean. And we should definitely add fillet over here as well, just a little. And the idea is, by the way, why did it happen like this? I mean, it's more filleted horizontally than vertically. This happens because of several things. Like, what's this? Bezier. But I can add division over here, turn this into a corner. This guy is also a corner. And now this is going to be filleted properly, like equally from both sides. Now that's much nicer. And let's add this thing over here. Something like that, it seems. Yeah, this looks about right. And another thing is the hair should be even thicker. This looks a little too thin. I'm Apparently we reached maximum. So more tip thickness then. Yeah. Also, I can, just in case, just to check, I have 100, maybe like 200 elements of hair, and let's try to convert it to hair to mesh. Okay, and if I turn off hair and fur here, I have this mesh in which I have all of these elements, which I can probably, apparently first I need to flip it all. It's an editable mesh, so I have a separate function for normals. There we go. Now actually I like hair and fur, so I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna enable hair and fur. This is gonna look fine. It's not exactly the way it was on the original image, but this is not bad. Also, let's increase the amount of hair to a 1000. Also, one more thing which we can also solve using simple lathe is at about 40, I guess, or even a little more. Yeah, 10 more. I can create a line for the side table. It's very simple. There we go. But here it's apparently very thin. I'm gonna make it very simple metallic, maybe something like bronze or brass. We'll see. And we know how it works. I'm gonna add lathe. I'm gonna enable weld core. Also here, I didn't enable, but I should enable weld core. Unhide all. And here, let's make it a little more right here and there. Maybe just a little more fillet for definition. This looks much nicer. And I think I'm gonna make the same material for both elements. Physical material, we're gonna apply that. This actually. I'm gonna turn it into a metal, less roughness, and it has to be yellowish, but darker, more colorful. Okay, this doesn't look bad for now. Let's make it just a little more interesting. I don't think it's gonna be noticeable, but let's add roughness. And for that, we already have certain noise textures. Maybe even I can use roughness from that concrete. It might look interesting. I mean, look at that. It looks like a little more of a worn metal. I don't have to go and search for a specific texture at the moment. And while it's visible, let's add UVW map. Let's see how it looks at about 100 by 100. This doesn't look bad. Also, I can reduce the visibility of this texture specifically, and I need to make this material a bit brighter, right? Nice. Roughness in general should be 100%, and brightness has to be a little more red and colored and brighter. Yeah, and I'm gonna reduce the effect of the texture because it's very glossy to me. Like 70 looks perfect. Overall, this looks fine. Maybe even this thing can be the same material as this. It doesn't have to be a specific material for hair, and so on. Let's group it. Side table with plant. Now let's add it to that. Let's add this to the main project and see if it actually matches with the proportion a little. It might be a little smaller than necessary, but let's see. It's not bad. I guess I'm gonna increase the size of hair and fur, but otherwise everything seems to be in order, more or less. Yeah, let's see how it works during render. Well, it's not perfect, and this thing is very small, and I guess we could do what I had in mind originally. That is, I'm gonna shorten this hair. So let's make it like lengthwise. I'm gonna cut it up to 20%. Then I'm gonna turn it into mesh. Perfect. And I'm gonna take this mesh and I'm gonna use pivot point center. Let's put the pivot where I need it, which is approximately over there. On the side as well, over here. And based on that, let's scale this guy. Might look okay in a distance. Okay, I can make it even bigger apparently. Also, looks like I should make not just this, let's close group, maybe even ungroup, remove the table from the selection. Nah, I mean it's gonna get a little too expensive, net. Yeah, you're right, it's gonna get very fluffy. So this group is gonna have pivot over here. I mean, okay, I can do it manually, centralized. Is it centralized on this side? Well, more or less it is now. It's fine. Just a little bigger to fill the scene, and I feel like this would look fine. Of course, regarding the material, let's create without any selection Corona hair material. I mean, I can just add it to hair, and let's see what it looks like already. It looks not bad. It's way worse than what we have over here, but oh well. I am oh, also perspective needs to be adjusted, of course. I feel like we could make it a little deeper if I move the camera out, enable something like clipping plane, of course, maybe at about 150. I think I could make the camera lower, but make the camera look higher, like that. And depth wise could be a lot deeper, yes, maybe even 70. Yes, now that makes more sense. And I can move the camera a little more out, maybe even lower. Now this makes more sense to me. Maybe closer, maybe we can move those things now a little more, a little further overall. Something like that. Thanks, Mr. Crystal, much appreciated. Okay, my perspective is not exactly matching the perspective because I did not do any perspective matching in general. I just felt like replicating similar look. Now this looks way deeper. Obviously I'm gonna need bloom and glare, and this is gonna give the desired effect over here as well. Okay, this looks not bad. It could be better, of course. I love sharpening images a little, just a little, because of fabric, I suppose. Well, it's not exactly as good as this, but for the try that we had, it's not bad. Also, I could add a little more detail to the walls and let that be the last detail for now. And there we go. In fact, I can use the same concrete texture, or yeah, let me use the roughness from concrete. And let me do maybe I'm gonna, yeah, I guess I'm gonna connect it through color correction node. And in color correction, I feel like it would make more sense if I invert it. Yeah. And maybe even I can use this as a bump map using bump converter. Volumetric box, okay. Sure, let me connect this to bump. I can invert bump, obviously. Minus 0.3. But let's see what the actual scale is. Do I even have UV map on this? Apparently I didn't. What a shame. And I'm just gonna use X mode. No, Y mode. Actually, it was supposed to be X mode, right? So something like this should be fine, I suppose. Let's see how it looks. Okay, that small detail made all the difference. I am happy with this look now. This is making it look a little more realistic, although we have extremely perfect elements somewhere, right? And what do you mean volumetric box inside? I mean, you want to replicate volume light? I guess we could do that, but I don't know. This is already fine, I guess. Well, maybe I can add or bring back a little more contrast using curves. By the way, I love current technologies in general. I mean, what we have nowadays, using simple like edits inside Corona Image Editor itself, we don't necessarily need to go to, what would you call it, Photoshop. By the way, this is a little flat, and this guy is a little more rounded. Now, this looks nice. I like it. I mean, I could make the wall better if I found exactly the same one. Yeah, I understand. Should we do the God rays? You know what? Let's do it. And in fact, I'm going to use global volume MTL. Why the heck not? And where do I have volume MTL? Let me add it to global volume. Of course. So let the distance be about 30 meters maybe, and scattering fully white would make sense, right? And absorption just a little less, and obviously directionality maybe like 0.7. Also maybe absorption, I mean scattering itself, maybe I could make it a little more, even less absorbent, or actually let it be more absorbent, but the distance should be bigger, right? Maybe like 4,000. Ah yes, that soft look, yes, makes sense. So, okay, the question was, hello Russo, what do you think about making a tutorial of an organic interior? Mr. White Black, could you please drop a reference on the Telegram channel, or like a Telegram page? Where is my, I mean, you can drop it in the comments, and in fact, it's you can always write to me directly. Give me the reference, and of course I would be interested in making I don't know, tutorial or even just a stream like today on something like that. Yes, I would be interested. I mean, I think it's fun. Also, I think I need to increase directionality again in the volume MTL even further. Oh, also, let's make it a little faster by just using single bounce so that it doesn't even overload the CPU in general. God rays are there, but they're very faint because I have huge contrast over sky and sun. I mean, if my sky would be dimmer and the sun brighter, that would actually give that effect. But actually, this looks not bad. Just a bit of haze in the interior because of that. Yeah, and also, as much as I love it, It might not make sense, but I love depth of field. I mean, here it's not gonna make sense, but maybe I can make two cameras. Also, I'm gonna be able to show people how to do, what would you call it, batch rendering. And for a depth shots, let's create a maybe shot like this. Yeah, let's create a camera which is as deep, doesn't have to be, what would you call it, perspective corrected. And I'm gonna disable camera clipping, obviously, and I want that thing to be in focus somehow, maybe like, maybe it would be interesting to look at it from under the lamp as if it's actually hitting that object. And I could move the target over there. That's what I want. I know it's not gonna make much of a sense, but it's just for info. I would say it would be useful for people, I guess, since we have such a shallow depth of field in general already. And let's see what this one looks like. Actually, it doesn't look bad. Nice. And even whatever people say, I love anisotropy. Yes. I mean, if I had some light, this would make sense, but okay, yeah, makes sense. Let it be like this. And I'm gonna add additional vignetting for the blades, I mean, for the aperture itself. Maybe -1. Yeah, side vignetting. This might look interesting. So, yeah, something like that. This doesn't have to have any logic. Also, the actual render size, let's fix that. Final render settings at about 3% are essentially perfect. With Intel CPU AI denoiser with tint filter, obviously, and the size of the rendering is gonna be like, maybe I'll make like 1920 by, well, this looks close enough, why not? What an interesting coincidence of numbers. Nice. So it would be nice if you also do exterior Archviz lessons next time. Yeah, of course, I'll try to do, yeah, I'll try to do Archviz for exterior as well. So anyway, we have this resolution and we have two cameras, and let's create a batch render. One view, two views. Everything is the same except view one. We know where to save it. Just call it main view CXR. I mean, even JPEG is fine, but if I want to post-process it a little, might as well. So view 2 would be DOF shot. Maybe we're going to change the direction of this shot. Also CXR for obvious reasons. And first one is going to render camera 1. Second is going to render camera 2. And you guys should understand that when I click render, it's automatically going to render and save both files on its own. I don't have to touch my PC. But let us start rendering. And I am curious about how long it's gonna take to render the image. So by the way, closer, this is the actual size of the image being rendered. And if we look at the statistics, it already rendered 1 pass. Once this reaches 5 passes, we're gonna know approximately how much time is remaining to finish all the renderings. And the good thing is we can always post-process it during rendering and after rendering if necessary. And I will be able to take out, what would you call it? My CPU is not that new actually, but it's still quite powerful, I think. Ryzen 9 3950, it's 16 cores. While rendering, it's keeping about 4.1, even during summers. So I guess it's quite sufficient. And yeah, and my memory is 3600, so that actually helps the CPU to work a little faster as well, I guess. And all core boost is around 4.1, which is not bad for Zen 2 CPU. Current generation is Zen 4, right? So technically 7950X 3D is almost twice as fast at the same number of cores, which is awesome. But I don't really feel the necessity to upgrade, honestly, so why the heck not? So yeah. I think we're closing the, okay. It says it's gonna take 20 minutes to render this, so I will send both of the renders to the main channel under comments maybe, or I'll just reply to this and send those final renders once they're done, I guess. Well, I think this was fun. We learned several new things, I guess. How to make this from hair and fur. I mean, I could make it a little more accurately. I should probably learn XGen and maybe even the thing is I don't have the, well, you know, the type of version that I need of, what was the other one? Ornatrix, I guess, is the best option when you're using hair and fur in general. But yeah, I need to learn that software. But otherwise, I think we had fun. So I think I'm gonna end it over here. And if you guys have more questions, you guys are more than welcome to the discussion on Telegram, like designation. And link to Telegram is also, if you check the YouTube link. Let me open the stream. I mean, if you look at the description, there is the link to my Telegram channel. If somebody is not on Telegram at the moment, so you guys can join me there. We can discuss everything. Okay. Don't think I need that. And the rendering is going, actually I am enjoying this image. I think I made the carpet a little too long. The best part about batch rendering, while it's rendering, I can just go and relax. I'll come back after like an hour and I'll find final renders in my render folder. Specifically in my project folder, in my render output folder. This is currently empty, but I've shown this place to be the place to save the renderings. Well, I've had fun. I hope you guys had fun as well. And thank you for participating. Until we meet again, people, for the next stream. Of course, we're gonna discuss what topics to have for the next stream as well. I think it's gonna be fun if we decide together. Have a great day, guys.